Brett Miller, thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Oh my God, we've been talking about so much. We were talking about stuff off air, Moose, because he's also, you know how I do ring announcing for Combat FC. He's actually a commissioner for the state. 1 of 5. I'm learning a lot about this now.
Can we define commissioner?
Sure. So the commissioner is it's a 3-year term that's appointed by the governor. And the purpose of the commissioners who make up the Massachusetts State Athletic Commission is to oversee all the regulation for all unarmed combat in the state of Massachusetts. So Muay Thai, Asian kickboxing, boxing, UFC, MMA, all of those events.
Nice. Look at that.
It's awesome. We were just talking about, I will argue till the day I die, combat sports is the ultimate sport for the world. People might have that attitude of, oh, I don't like seeing people get punched in the face and stuff like that. But if you put on a fight, I was just saying this to Brett, if you put on a fight anywhere in the world, anywhere, on TV, and just put it on mute, anybody who's watching it could easily go, I want the guy with the red shorts to win. Like, it's easy to kind of follow along. You might not know certain little intricate things about it, like if a fight goes to the ground or whatever, but in boxing, you see them punching each other in the face. You're like, I want the guy in the red shorts to punch the other guy and knock him out. It's easier.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas with most other sports, football. Try to explain. Someone who's never seen the sport of football, right? The Super Bowl comes on. Try and have them follow along. They're like, wait, why'd they just stop playing? What just happened?
Right.
Why'd they stop playing again? What's going on? Why are they putting the ball? Why are they kicking the ball now?
Yeah.
What's going on?
What's the yellow flag in the field?
Yeah.
Wait.
I still don't know all the rules. You know what's funny? I was watching. It was the Washington against the Eagles. Did you see that game at all?
This last one?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
AFC? Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so there was one play where the Eagles were right on the goal line, ready to score, and the defenseman from Washington kept jumping over.
Yes.
And they kept calling a penalty. And they do the, do you watch football, Moose? Okay, so they kept doing that penalty half a distance to the goal line thing. Okay, so now the dude did it like 3 or 4 times. The ball is, you can't go any more half a distance to the goal. The ball is, the nose of the ball is touching the white. The referees come out and they basically said, all right, if this happens again, we're just basically going to give the Eagles a touchdown.
Touchdown, right.
I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, you could do, so if it's like the Super Bowl, overtime, someone keeps doing that, you could just say, you know what, game over.
Right.
We're going to give it to...
Well, hence the need for commissions, right? It's the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
right? Yeah, to make the regulations and make sure that they're fair to both teams. But that was a smoke show. I actually was really happy that the Eagles came through. So, yeah.
Who do you want to win the Super Bowl?
I would. I'm not a huge football fan, but I would like to see the Eagles.
Yeah.
I think everybody's getting like they were years ago. When the Patriots kept winning and winning, people hated us, right?
Yeah.
And so now I think people are starting to hate, Kansas City. So
They are.
it'd be nice to see the underdog win, and
I want Kansas City not to win just because they would be the first team to win 3 in a row.
Right.
And that takes a lot away from the Patriots.
Right.
That takes a lot. And I don't want Patrick Mahomes to...
Right.
And it sucks because like if seeing somebody doing something historic is always cool.
Right. Yeah. You become a hater though, right? Like,
But I'm like, but my guy was the one who did it historic. Like if it wasn't Tom Brady, if he was beating like Joe Montana's records or something like that, I'd be
Right.
like, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, I want to win 10 in a row.
Yes.
But not against Brady. But the good thing I always say, I'm like, let's say he wins the 3 in a row. Let's say for some reason he goes on to win 8 Super Bowls. Tom Brady beat him in the Super Bowl.
yeah.
You did.
He couldn't beat the great one.
Right.
So
Right.
He always has that.
Exactly.
That's all I got.
Love
so okay, so Brett, we gotta before we get to your life, because you have a book out, Beautiful Day to Save Lives. He's a combat medic. The reason I know about you is because one of our sales guys at the radio station, Dan,
Yeah.
good guy, he was telling me, like, we bonded over running marathons and things of that nature.
Sure.
And we were BSing a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that he had MS, and I'm like, wait, what?
Parkinson's.
Parkinson's. I'm sorry,
Sorry, no,
Parkinson's.
that's okay, yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah. And I was like, you got Parkinson's? And he said, yeah, but I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, and I'm also boxing. And I said, and you're boxing?
Right.
Really? He goes, it actually helps. He goes, I'm training with a guy who helps people who have Parkinson's. I'm like, that's a thing? So anyway, that's why I said, can I get him on the podcast?
Sure, yeah.
And he hit you up, and
Yeah.
then I found out you have like a really, really cool story.
Yeah.
But before we start, I'm going to ask you a bunch of random ass questions.
Go for it.
Here we go. If you could time travel to the past or the future, which way are you going? What do you want to see? And you can't. It's not like you can't affect it. It's not like Back to the Future where you're like, I'm gonna go to the past, play the lottery, and now I'm a billionaire.
Right. If I could go past or future, I think I would go backwards. Yeah, in time in my TARDIS, and I would like to probably be alive during like Amistad and that historical era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You a big history guy?
Becoming one in my adult life a little bit more.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I think a lot of that time was really interesting. And especially for the United States, and just also I just love the history behind two groups of people who were shooting each other one day, just completely stopped on Christmas.
Yeah.
And loved each other and played soccer. And then, so I just find that time period very fascinating. So
It's funny because how old are you?
52.
52. Okay, I'm about to be 49, so we're basically the same age. When I was younger, I was not into history at all. Now that I'm older, just like you, I'm getting more into stuff. But I think a lot of it has to do with when I was younger, my history class was basically, here's the book. The teacher, read the book, reading along with it, adding their own little flair to it, and all right, here's your test.
Right.
Like it was it was a pattern of boringness.
Right.
Whereas I feel as if I was young now. With the reason I think I'm into it more now is because of documentaries and things of that nature, and even little graphics that like you'll see on social media where someone will show you, the depiction of something.
Right.
And it's easier to visualize.
Right.
And that's why I'm into it now. Moose, you're 24, so you kind of grew up with that. Were you big into history and stuff in high school?
Well, yeah, just because I'm a total geek, so like, yeah, I love all that stuff.
But you also probably got a lot of visual to go along with. It wasn't just a book learning, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like a lot of films and stuff. But I honestly, it's not even the films that I like that got me intrigued. There's more like back in the day, I loved like paintings and stuff that had to do with events.
Yeah.
Because I thought that depiction, honestly, because it was of its time.
Yeah.
I feel like that transports you, so you can actually like see what those people in that era saw. Like the whole like Manifest Destiny pictures they would show you in high school. No.
They didn't show me anything. In my defense, I did not.
He looked right through me.
Well, I just in high school, I just figured out. I've said this a million times. In high school, I realized the pattern was, go in, semi suck in the information they're giving to me, regurgitate it in two weeks for the test, and then let it leak out of your brain.
Right.
So I didn't absorb anything. I just kind of, was like a
But to
wheel.
answer your question, for me, we did have a lot more visuals.
Yeah.
More than books.
You got all kinds of social media input, all the just technology in itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's funny. The one class that I kind of was into was, and it was later on, was science when they started letting you experiment with things. Because now I'm like, oh wait, I'm seeing that if you, combine. I don't remember any of it now, but it was more like, oh, look.
Right. The application.
See,
right?
apply it,
application.
as opposed to just someone telling you. All right, so what about if you could acquire a skill right now, and start using it immediately? What would it be?
Can it? Does it have to be a real skill? Like it can be like. So I'd like to have the superpower to like completely heal people of all diseases through my hands.
Yeah.
Because I my book, It's a Beautiful Day to Save Lives, is a lot about saving people's lives. So I've done that and experienced that, and I use my hands all day in my practice. But I would love to be able to touch people and actually have the power to heal.
Yeah.
Can I actually see the book? Do you mind?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I brought a copy for Ramiro, and I got to sign it. But yeah, dig right in.
Favorite quote?
Favorite quotes? Oh. I have a lot of them, but I think my favorite quote would be chase your dreams, because dreams don't chase you back.
Good one.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
I'm gonna write that down because I send my kids quotes all the time.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah, positive, right? The art of positive words. And
How old are your kids?
I have twins that are 12, boy, girl, Blake and Victoria. And my oldest, who I just went to visit last night, she's down at URI. She's a sophomore there. Her name is Isabel.
Wait, you serious?
Yeah.
My daughter's a sophomore at URI.
There you go, buddy.
No way, get out of here.
Dead serious. Yeah, I just went last night to visit her. We went to dinner and
No.
hung out. And yeah,
What is she? What's she majoring in?
she's in environmental science, marine
Dude.
biology.
Well, not marine biology, but my daughter's into environmental science. What's your daughter's name?
Isabel Miller.
Isabel Miller.
Imagine she's like, Dad, that's my roommate.
Yeah, right, right.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, my daughter wanted to go to URI specifically because of the farm. She loves
Okay.
working with
Yeah.
animals and stuff.
Yeah, well, Kingstown's it's perfect for that.
Yeah.
So Isabel started at Roger Williams and realized, she wanted a small college, went there, and then it was like, this is too small, Dad.
Yeah,
And so she transferred to URI this year and loves it.
that's awesome.
But yeah, that's what a small world.
Yeah.
There you
And,
go.
and my daughter is it? I don't know if it's environmental science. She's a teacher's aide for one of the classes. That's so fun. Isabel Miller. I'm going to ask her if she
Yeah,
knows
ask her. Isabel's currently, she's a teacher's aide. Isabel's working in the lab. So
Okay.
she works in the ecology lab. She's doing some study with slugs right now. So
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh, that's so funny. Small
Yeah.
world. But between that and us having the combat sports connection too.
Meant to be here.
I was gonna say.
What's your morning routine? You're definitely, I could tell, is a morning routine.
Yeah.
guy.
Well, you're talking to an old military guy here.
Yeah.
So I have a very specific routine. I wake up every morning 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm in the gym at 4:30 every morning, banging weights or doing some form of strength training, or I run almost every single day, or I do both. It depends on my time frame. I also meditate every single morning. After that, and then I prep. I eat the exact same things every single day. So I prep all my food and my drinks and all that stuff. And then I start work very early. So I usually start work 5:30, 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm either teaching a class at my wellness center or I'm training somebody.
Okay. And where's the wellness center?
Wellness center's in Rockland, Massachusetts, so on the South Shore.
Okay.
So we're 110 Fitness. We're the largest wellness center in the world for people with Parkinson's disease. But then we're an all-inclusive wellness center, so we do programming for people who might be disabled vets, young children, or young adults who have, some sort of adaptive needs. We do programming for like the developmentally delayed, young adults. We do programming for people like yourself who want to maybe come and learn how to box, maybe come take a spin class or do some strength training. So we're fully inclusive. But our primary goal is people with neurological diseases, primarily Parkinson's, but I've got people, ALS, Huntington's disease, MS, chronic encephalopathy, all those things.
So why did you start that specifically for people with those?
Yeah, so this is part of the reason that I wrote the memoir that we were just talking about. But had an aunt who had Parkinson's disease, also working in professional fighting. And also being a physical therapist, I was actually training people using boxing techniques without the contact who had neurological diseases before it became a thing.
Yeah.
Because of all the dynamic balance work, the mental aptitude, strength, range of motion, all the things that we talk about in professional fighting. And there was a special that Leslie Stahl, who now is a colleague of mine, did on her husband fighting in the Bronx. He had Parkinson's disease, and they noticed that his symptoms were going away. And he was boxing, and so this became a thing, right? Somebody did research over 10 years, and they said, listen, if you incorporate high-intensity interval training, primarily boxing, because it's the hardest sport in the world per the U.S. Olympic Committee, you can manage your symptoms of Parkinson's disease. So I started this very small thing. I owned a different business at the time. I worked in an aerobic studio in another gym in Marshfield. And I had 2 people show up when I started this boxing program. And in about a month, there were 40 people in there. And I said, we got to do something here. The community has a need here. And so I became a silent partner in my other business and moved to Rockland 8 years ago. And now we're the biggest in the world.
Wow. And so how did you get the word out? Was it word of mouth? Or was it...
Word of mouth. We've never marketed. Actually, we're thinking about starting to do some marketing, but we're already out of space, and we've been out of space for 3 years. So, our classes are jammed. And obviously you have, 40 to 60 people with Parkinson's on the floor. It's organized chaos. But I run a tight ship, obviously, as you can tell. So we make it work, and we have some incredible volunteers, and we have some incredible employees who who work for me, who really are as committed as I am. So.
That's what is that what Freddie Roach has? Parkinson's?
Yeah. Freddie's got Parkinson's, but can knit like a champ, right?
Yeah. It's crazy.
And again, you put somebody to task who has Parkinson's, and typically with that focus, their body just remembers and they forget. The symptoms don't present themselves. Sometimes after exercise and intensity will bring out like tremor or other symptoms.
Yeah.
But primarily like in the actual movement pattern that has been learned, you won't see as much. And so we have people who come in, they do their workout, and then towards the end of the workout or post-workout, they're shaking like a tree or they're having a lot of symptoms come back.
Yeah.
And then what we find in the research is then they'll get like a day or two without any symptoms at all.
Really?
Yeah, it's based off the research. So I've created this huge platform that's my research, and I do research for all the Boston hospitals. We do research for Michael J. Fox Foundation, Davis Finney Foundation. I work for Cleveland Clinic. So we do all these, research projects in-house that are geared around exercise and technology. So we do a lot of work for technology companies that design things to help mitigate the symptoms of Parkinson's. So there's all this stuff kind of going on. And, anybody that comes to our doors right now, we're telling them, like, it's the greatest time to have Parkinson's disease because there's so much right now that's focusing monetarily and also just awareness-wise with Michael getting the Medal of Honor, things like that brings such light and awareness to Parkinson's disease.
So is the science behind it that something in your brain shifts when you start getting...
Yeah.
when you start doing something physical and it just kind of shuts off the Parkinson's symptoms, or...
Yes.
Talk to me like I'm a fifth grader.
I'm going to talk to you like a layman, right?
Yeah, like
without getting into
ChatGPT
this sinus.
explaining
Yeah,
it to me.
exactly. Yeah. So what we know based off the research and some new scanning techniques that we have is that when you exercise at a level that's high intensity, now this is no joke. We have people who climb ropes to the ceiling, jump over 8-foot walls. I mean, these guys are grinding and they're training like a professional fighter, and you having fight experience, you understand how hard that is, right?
Hell yeah.
So these are people that are walking in the door 26 to 90, right? That's our population, who are coming in and they are working at a level that they've not been pushed to or not done. And in that intensity level, what we have found scientifically is that the dopamine cell structure, which has disappeared, right? So just a little backstory for those out there that don't understand, Parkinson's is a loss of dopamine neurotransmitter. And when you're diagnosed, you typically have already lost about 30 to 50% of your dopamine cells. And they're like teeth. You get one set. So now what we have to do is we have to figure out a way to effectively maximize the potential of the neurotransmitter that we still have left in our brain. And use that because dopamine is responsible for movement, and it's also responsible for REM sleep or deep sleep. So with that intensity, what we are able to do is actually protect the cell lining of the neurotransmitter so that it breaks down at a slower rate. And now with the newest research out of Yale, just this about a year ago, they're now finding that we're actually reversing some of the cell destruction with high intensity exercise. So that was a huge breakthrough. And so if these people show up and they're committed and they do the work, they can actually, I have people that I've been training who have been in my program for 7-8 years, and their Parkinson's has not changed since they started.
Wow.
But we're talking 5-6 days a week of beating it back and fighting back like really hard. So
it's like exercise really is the ultimate medicine.
With or without, right? It doesn't matter if you have a neurological disease, right? Like,
with everything, just with everything, it either slows down any type of
biological aging. Yeah.
Wow.
Exercise is key. And, I have a platform that I use, but, the other things that we really drive home are rest, how important it is to sleep and how to sleep well, hydration, proper nutrition, gut nutrition. A lot of Parkinson's that we found in the research is genetically happening and it's starting in the gut. So we do a lot with gut health and nutrition. And so you really have to do all those things, and it's a lifestyle change, right? But guess what? If I have Parkinson's disease and I make this lifestyle change and I am better and I'm more available for my family and my kids, and I'm able to be of service to other people with Parkinson's, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to do that work. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to do that work.
So is Parkinson's, how does one get, is it hereditary? Is it?
Great question. So I participate in a private research roundtable with the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And so those are the people that are actual scientists that are doing the work all over the world that Michael J. Fox grants money to. They're all about cure, right? So what we know is we know that there's genetics involved. If you asked me 4 years ago, we'd say maybe 10%. Now we're saying way more than that. We've identified about like 7 or 8 genes that we know of, again, all in the gut, that are leading to Parkinson's disease. And we also know that there's other environmental triggers that are combined with that.
Yeah.
So like military folks who've been exposed to like burn pits, pesticides, welders who've been, burning soft metals, printing presses, people who've been involved in like the printing business, firemen who've been exposed to like a lot of off-gassing from burning embers. So a lot of things like that we know. The problem is this, Ramiro. We have people who have the genes that we know that are leading to the cause of Parkinson's. And some people with the gene get Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And there are people who are not getting Parkinson's who have the gene.
So something turns it on.
So something, and so we then think maybe it's an environmental trigger. So where were you born? Did you live in the plastics capital of the world in the 70s in Leominster? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. Were you exposed to like cranberry bog pesticides or Roundup, or were you a farmer? Things like that. There was a huge breakthrough that happened last year, almost 2 years ago, was what was called a biomarker. And it was a scientist who took cerebrospinal fluid. So you have a spinal tap. They take your fluid. They drop a efflorescence inside that. And what happens is the protein that folds in the cell structure in Parkinson's that kind of helps trash the cell and kill the cell, they light up like light bright. So they have this efflorescence they put in, and if you do that and you see those things light up, you are going to get Parkinson's or you have Parkinson's. So they're now figuring a way to do this through a blood test or a nasal swab or interstitial fluid that is a little bit more less invasive, so that you don't have to have a spinal tap, to then have the biomarker. And the goal in 3 to 5 years is when you go to your primary care physician as a doctor or something, to have your physical or something as a young person, they'll do this test on you, and they'll say, okay, you are slated to possibly have Parkinson's. And so then what that does is it turns up pharma, and it drives research, and it drives awareness, so that we can say, okay, if you're positive for the biomarker, is there a way that we can stop this from happening? So that's where we're at right now. And if you talk to the scientists who are doing the work that we meet with once a year in November in New York City at the foundation, for the Fox Foundation, they are now seeing some form of cure on the horizon in about 3 to 5 years, which is, the hair is sticking up on my arms right now. Just the fact that we may be able to stop something prior to it happening, which is really the way medicine should be practiced, right? Proactively.
100%.
So that just give you a little, painting just a little bit picture about what our future looks like. And again, when I have people come into my facility, I say, hey, listen, this is a great time to have Parkinson's. It's a very, very slow progressive disease. And where else can you go, right? Where somebody says, guess what? If you show up and do the work that I've created based off my research platform, you're going to get better.
Yeah.
Who the hell can say that to somebody with a disease, right? So, Mercy waits at the door of 110 Fitness. It's a really great place.
It's funny because, it sucks that Michael J. Fox got Parkinson's, but it's almost like Boomer Esiason, the quarterback.
Right.
His son has cystic fibrosis, I believe it was.
Yeah.
That was one of those diseases that you heard about, but you never really thought about it. His son gets it in like the 80s, I think it was. Right. And all of a sudden, Boomer starts basically every deal he made for sponsors and stuff, he said, you need to donate to cystic fibrosis. You need to do it. Single-handedly, he has basically, at the time that his son got it, I think, and I could be completely off with this, but the lifespan was maybe not even 20 years old.
You're 100% correct.
Yeah. His son's like 40.
Yep.
It's like it just single-handedly his son getting it. It's weird when you think about out of every bad thing, something good comes out. But he has changed the face of people with cystic fibrosis, the lifespan. And Michael J. Fox with Parkinson's, again, it was one of those, I heard of it, but then when he got it, I was like, whoa, what the hell is this? And I think he brought so much attention to it.
Yeah. They've raised almost $2 billion in the last 22 or 3 years, and they're slated to raise another, it's some astronomical event in the amount in the next 5 years, another $5 billion. But let's face it, right? There's silver linings to this. Just in Parkinson's, Michael J. Fox, Muhammad Ali, Linda Ronstadt, Alan Alda, Neil Diamond, Ozzy Osbourne, right? All these people who are super famous, and sadly, they've have Parkinson's disease. But from the perspective of awareness for the rest of the world, it's huge, right?
Yeah.
So we need famous people to get sick. Right?
Yeah.
You know,
It's
so,
I mean, it sucks for them, but it does
Correct.
definitely help.
there's a silver lining there for sure.
You're
Yeah.
a phenomenal writer, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You want to hear how he opens up his thing with a quote? He quoted Maya Angelou, and it said, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you."
I like it.
That's another one of my favorite quotes.
I like it.
But it's very personal for me.
And
too.
then last thing, the first sentence of the book is, "Would anyone with medical experience please come to the front of the plane right away?"
Oh, damn. Starting with one of those stories.
So no, but I was just skimming through it. Is this your first book? Or-
My first book, yeah, and I've contributed to multiple other books since then, and I'm in the process of writing a second book about my journey in 110 Fitness.
Phenomenal
Yeah.
wording, seriously.
Yeah,
I
thank
don't
you.
I don't mean that lightly.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, this book's
I'm gonna be
for you.
stealing this from you after you're done.
And I always tell everybody, read it and share it with someone else.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. Okay. So we got to get into that story now. Okay. So former combat medic. What made you want to get into? Did you come from a military family?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yeah. So I came from a military family. My dad was in the 1st Marine Division. Those are the guys that took Saipan, pushed the flag up. He also was
The
in,
badasses.
Yeah. Guadalcanal.
Yeah.
Which was horrifying in itself. My grandfather was very good friends with John Kennedy. They were on PT boats together.
No way.
And they spent many summers together in Nantasket, and they were very good friends. So my grandfather was in the Navy. My brother is a 10th Mountain guy.
Oh wow.
So he did 16 years with 10th Mountain up in Drum in New York, light infantry. And I was next. So, I knew when I was in high school that I wanted to help people somehow in my career. But I wanted to do that. Also, I wanted to be a soldier. I wanted to be in the service. And 4 days after I graduated high school, I left for boot camp. And and I became a soldier. And I then went on to specialty school, became a combat medic, and ended up working in special operations for 8 years.
Nice.
A lot of missions and a lot of psychological toll, and
Yeah.
a lot of my story is in my memoir that I wrote about my journey with PTSD and alcoholism and suicide, and the typical stories that you hear about veterans.
Yeah.
So I just want to back up. 110 Fitness is dedicated to my team. There's a picture of my team that our operations director made for me. It's in this beautiful frame, and it's in the gym, and that space is dedicated to them. And it's people always talk about bonds, like the bond of being involved in a team in the military is what some people would correlate to almost stronger than a marriage, right? Because you're in situations where you're relying on each other and such. And, I'm grateful for all that. And the hardest thing when I look at that picture is all of us have experienced some sort of trauma post-military. One of our team members has passed on. 2 of our other guys were blown up and are suffering with injuries from that, and it's just But God bless America. I love being a soldier. I love my military career, and I miss being in the military still.
Yeah.
And I've been out since 1998. So my last mission was in Albania.
You were there during
just before the coup.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! Wow.
Yep. Yeah, and that was a sticky situation.
Yeah.
But there's a short story. I'm very humble, and I'm not a big storyteller about military combat things, but I included 2 just short stories in my book just to kind of give people just a sort of an inkling of what goes on with massacres and things like that.
Do you know anything about that? Of like the whole like Kosovo Albania thing in the late 90s?
All I know is that you're Albanian.
I'm not Albanian.
So
You're not Albanian? I thought you said you were Albanian.
Algerian.
Algeria,
Algerian.
a little bit
Everyone
north,
always
a little
thinks
bit
that.
north.
A-L-E-N.
Yeah, a little bit north.
Yeah, no, it's similar. Everyone always thinks no, but
So
not a pretty time.
No.
yeah,
so
not
what
a pretty
happened?
time. So, and this is great, and I'm glad again you're a history buff because a lot of people don't know that the massacre of Srebrenica that occurred in Bosnia was a 2-day, 8,000 people, women, children, and men that were chased into the woods and brutally murdered. It was considered ethnic cleansing back then, and that happened, and thank God for the Dayton, peace accord, because it finally ended. But that was one of the things that I was involved in European Command. What they do is they take certain groups of special operations from different countries and they mesh them together, and then they say, okay, here's this giant mess. You're going to do this, you guys do this, you guys do this, and you figure out a way to triage all the injured, remove people to airports so they can get to different country. Like there's all this stuff that goes on. And I was part of that. And I spent most of my time in Macedonia trying to triage people, homeless kids everywhere, hospitals with like tin cans, and trying to do surgery on people with, landmine issues. And historically, no one ever talks about it. It was one of the largest massacres that ever happened in the history of the world.
Yeah.
So it was gnarly. And then again, after that, then the coup almost happened in Albania. There were rebels all over the place that were interrupting like crossing of borders, and NATO was trying to be involved, and the Geneva Convention was out the window. And, it's a lot of stuff. But, the military experience that I had really is everything that I am today, and I'm so grateful for it. I run a tight ship at 110 Fitness. We are the special operations of Parkinson's Wellness.
Nice.
We go into battle every day. We run towards gunfire, and we show up, and when your ass is on fire, somebody's there with a bucket of water to put it out and say, you know what? I got you. Let's go. So.
It's funny because everyone I know who has been in the military, it's one or the other. There's never like an in between. It's either military family. So it was like I was just destined to do it. I always wanted to be a soldier, or I was a fuck up.
Yep.
And somebody was like, get your ass into the military to get you straightened out.
Yeah. Yeah, and my brother was the latter, and I was, I was not. I knew this was something that I wanted to do, and if you do read my book, you'll see that all this stuff started to happen for me when I was about 6.
Yeah,
and situations kept coming into my life where I was having to save people that were dying, and so the universe was talking to me. I feel like in that, and I got out of the service and had a lot of issues in therapy for 2 years.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Did the prescription drugs and the alcohol almost blew my brains out. I mean, I'm open and honest about this story because there's somebody out there listening who needs some help. And by sharing my story with people, it helps me, right? It helps me heal because I still, I'm a little broken. Yeah. And I spend my day being of service to hundreds of people every week that walk through my door, and teaching that way to the people that come in the door, and say, your job now that you have your act together is then to be of service to someone else, and that's really, what keeps me on the straight and narrow.
And I think your position too as a combat medic, it's a different, because of course you're trained like your brothers in arms, but
right. I'm an infantry guy.
Of course.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I feel like there's a different type of weight on you in those moments because it's not like you're going in executing your mission no matter what.
Right.
You have someone's life in your hands.
Right.
And while you're also taking care of yourself and your team.
Right.
So I tip my hat off too, because that's not something a lot of people can do at all. So thank you, seriously.
Thank you for being thankful. It's the armor gets heavy, and that's where I had a choice. I had a lot of guilt when I left the service because I left my team, and that was a very difficult decision for me. And I knew I wanted to have a family, and I knew I wanted to live a little bit more of a normal life. And it was either I'm a lifer in the service and I continue, my service to my country, or I join the civilian world. And that transition was very difficult for me, and times have changed, and there's so many more liaisons and effective ways to integrate veterans back into what you guys live, like your regular, what we call civilian life. But when I was getting out in the late 90s, it was hard. It was like, okay, here's your paperwork, here's your DD-214, and you're all set. Good luck. Go find a job and, meet somebody and have kids and live your life, so. And
you're left with this to unravel.
Yeah. And that's, it wasn't pretty for me after that.
How old were you when you got out?
So I got out in 1998. So I was still in my 20s.
Oh wow.
Right?
So
Yeah.
you got out. Did you chose to leave, or
I
did you
chose to leave. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I chose to leave. Like I said, there's a Harry Carey story that you read about, and it was kind of my my last straw, and I decided to exit from my team, which took a lot. You know, I talked to them, and they joked like, "Oh yeah, go do what you want to do, you live your life and all that," but we all use humor a lot of times when things are serious, and so the guilt's a little bit heavy, especially right after I got out. They were sent over to Afghanistan, and one of our guys, TJ, got blown up by a IED, lost half his face and part of his head, and the guy in the Humvee with him died, and that was on me.
Why do you say it was on you?
Cause I wasn't there, man. It's just one of those things. Like I should have been there.
I know. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
And would I have been able to prevent it? Probably not. But it's just that's the stuff that you live with. Like, he's since become an attorney and done wonderful things. But yeah, that's the shit. That kind of hangs with you, and it kind of regurgitates every once in a while. You can see here I'm getting a little teary-eyed,
No,
right?
okay.
Like
No,
talking
it's
about,
okay.
no, I'm fine with that. I cry all the time. But that's the stuff that a lot of people don't see, that kind of plays in your mind a lot of times. But I made the right decision.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When
Absolutely.
when 9/11 happened, did you have? I know there was an influx of a lot of guys who were out who
Signed me
went,
back up.
Yeah. Did you have that?
Yeah, I was. Obviously, everybody remembers where they were and what they were doing, and there were many periods of time where I actually called my brother and I was like, "Listen, I'm going back." He's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "This is what I got to do," But here's the problem, right? Newly married, I didn't have any children, but my wife was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm going back. Like, I need to be there," And a lot of people did. There was a huge influx of people that joined the military, but I did not. And again, a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was newly married, and I was also in a mentally not in the best place.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think because that is one consistent story of when a lot of guys get out of service is, PTSD. They turn to alcohol, suicidal thoughts, or going through with it. There's like just a lot of consistency. What do you think the military could do when somebody is leaving that could maybe, you obviously can't completely eradicate those things, but at least mitigate it and bring it down?
So much has been done since I got out. Like I said, you're assigned like a liaison who's like a social worker who helps you with like job placement and, helps you get out into the world. We've got places, we're so lucky to live in Boston, right? Because we just have like amazing medicine and just amazing resources and education. We've got the Run to Home Base, right? Which is a program where like you can be embedded at Mass General Hospital for 2 weeks. They'll drive you to and from every day, or you can just stay there. They'll take your family and they'll do whatever they got to do. Psych stuff, meds, therapy, whatever you need. So we have things like that. The VA has blown out their services too, like with service dogs and any type of they have all kinds of resources and support groups and things that you can do. And so it's really come full circle. Still, there's obviously you hear about 22 kill and the fact that there's like a lot of veterans still taking their lives every day. But the resources that have become available are so much more now than they've been. And there's also a lot, so I participate in a lot of stuff, right? So I still, we do something called the Green Beret Mission with a Challenge. So it's a bunch of old Green Beret guys and Special Forces dudes, and we all get together and we have people come up and do like adventure racing, and we teach them military stuff. They actually have to do like night missions, and they get, bags put over their head and zip ties and guns and dogs, and they get to experience what it's like to actually be in the service and how that is. And I took a team of 15 people with Parkinson's last year who did it with us. And then I'm a beekeeper. So I actually, they have done studies at the University of New Hampshire where they use the art of beekeeping for military guys and gals who have PTSD. And they use the art of beekeeping to help work on those types of things. And then they kind of graduate to become beekeepers on their own. Till the Hala Project is another one that I volunteer for. So I actually present like awards or memorials to families who've lost soldiers. So I'll actually go to their home and present an actual plaque and things like that to their children or to their spouses. So there's a lot of people out there who have developed these programs that create awareness and resources and almost like a buddy check system for people. Like I still buddy check with my team. Like we're all over the place. We had our first reunion at my house this summer and all of us couldn't make it, but it was the first time we'd all been together in over 26 years or 27 years.
How was that?
It was awesome. Yeah, I mean, they all came to my house. We just sat and talked and cried and, you know, and it was so nice for my children to be able to meet these folks and my wife and my friends. I had a couple friends come over. And you got to do the buddy checks because I got to be honest with you, like, you know, I'm great for a day, but tomorrow might be different. And I'm aware of that, you know, my self-awareness, but it's something that you have to just remember. And, you know, even in the civilian world, if you know somebody who's struggling, like our mantra is, you know, to reach out and always say yes to that person who's in the struggle.
Yeah.
So
can we go back to the beekeeping? What's the well, I'm just like, what's the science behind beekeeping helping you?
Yeah,
when
so
you're
right, it
coming
doesn't
out?
make sense, right? Well, I
Yeah.
can share the study with you, but what's really interesting is the art. So if anybody out there who's a beekeeper understands this, but the meticulousness of bees surviving in nature, right, and how they create what they create and how they make honey and what they do is so naturally perfect. And then to be able to be a part of that where you're in this hive, there's 60,000 bees flying around you, literally, and you're taking frames out of honey or you're assessing, like, is the queen doing her job? All that focus and that, it's almost like a Zen. It's almost like you know what I mean? It's almost like a meditative sort of thing that occurs where you're in this process that kind of helps, like, probably decrease your cortisol levels, right? Or maybe take some of that adrenaline where, like, you know, like people make fun of me because I sit at the exits. I sit in church and think, okay, if someone comes in here with a weapon, how am I going to respond? Where are the exits and where's my family? And what am I going to do to protect my family? So there's people like me who think like that. And those are people who need to calm their brains a little bit. And so through the art of beekeeping, they are able to achieve that, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And it started in Texas and it's all over the country now. There's a bunch of beekeeper mentors like myself who take soldiers in and help them out. So
it's so funny, you know, when you were talking about the cortisol and all that stuff, because I remember when I was younger and, you know, somebody would bring up to me about maybe joining the military. I didn't have anybody. Well, I did have an uncle who was, he was special forces because all his pictures are just him, bushy hair, all that stuff, like in a jungle.
Yeah,
and every now and then
Delta guys, and
every now and then he'd drink and tell my father stories. He said one time a sloth fell on him. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know sloth smelled so bad, but he said he took a nap. He said he saw a sloth in a tree. He's like, I'll just take a nap here because the sloth moves so slow. Apparently it fell out of the tree and fell on him. And as he woke up, the sloth was like lifting up his hand. He said he threw it off, but he goes, he stunk for like days because of it.
Not that he didn't stink before.
but I remember being younger and knowing nothing about the military, and it's so funny, you know, with everything we're talking about now. I would always say I would not be able to handle being somewhere where I am fighting for my life day in and day out, just like constantly on alert. And then coming back here, I can't see myself not flipping out inside of a convenience store if the idiot in front of me is taking too long to buy his lottery tickets or something. I'm like, how do you make that switch?
Right. Well, that's the problem, right? It's not an on-off. It's a transition. And like I said, I mean, I can't tell you how many people, you know, talk about like the intensity of my personality, or like, still to this day, like I'm a little on more than most people. If you know what that means, like, you know what I mean? Like I know everything that's going on in this room right now.
Yeah.
I'm well aware of where my exits are. I'm well aware of both of you. I'm well aware of where things are. Like, that's the way I walk into a room and I assess things. Like,
Yeah.
I was bred that way, right, from the military.
And most people are falling off of curbs because they're staring at their phone as they're walking down the street and they miss the sidewalk.
Yeah, and so, but that takes a toll, right? It creates anxiety,
Yeah.
and so I have a daily. That's why I meditate. I need a daily practice that says, okay, no one's going to shoot you at the radio station today, Brett. Okay,
Yeah.
you can go in there and meet Ramiro and have a really great time, and just enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where I have to like pause and like you said, you go into like, you know, I was in a barbershop the other day with my son who's autistic, and this guy was harassing my son, and that, you know, I see red, right?
Yeah.
And did I act inappropriately? Sure did, but I waited, and I waited till he left, and then I went outside. But so I had some some sense of professionalism, but I still think like that, and I have to be human, and I also have to be forgiving to myself and be humbled that, you know, I'm here and life is wonderful, and I need to, you know, pause more often and breathe and then respond.
Can I give you one more note real quick? Also, I mean, everything you're saying, it's what I think is beautiful of what you're saying right now is I just opened up to this page here. Take a look at it. It's you caption it, playing marbles on the streets of Bosnia with refugee children. So I've been speaking to you for 49 minutes and 24 seconds, and you've shared, you know, how heavy things can get. But the same smile on that young man's face with those kids during that really tough time is the exact same one I'm looking at right now. So once again, thank you. And also, that part of you is still alive.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it right now, because that to me is like, for you to sit there and give those kids some joy for a little bit during such a dark time, I promise you there's not many people that have that same integrity as you do. So I just wanted to once again just say something like that.
Yeah, it's real, and I'm humbled, and thank you. It's a lot of homelessness, a lot of kids lost their parents. Like I said, the displacement that occurred after the massacre in Bosnia was just, you wouldn't believe it if I told you. I mean, you can read my book, but like I can smell it right now. Like I know what it was like walking through those hospitals and people writhing in pain and rooms full of bodies and kids homeless on the streets. And these are the kids, they love marbles. So I go out there, play marbles, you know, with the kids and try to make it somewhat real for them and, you know, just give them something, right? Like, you know.
And you're still doing stuff like that today, though.
Right.
You
Well,
know
that's
what I mean?
what I said. Like,
so it's
I had to.
You're still progressing. So it's very refreshing to hear someone who is in your stance be just extremely so cognitive of the good and the bad.
Right.
Like, you're not dismissing anything. You're looking at it face on. You know what I mean?
Yes, I am.
And people who haven't even had such an experience as you, they might have gone through something in their life. They aren't even cognitive of that. They'll take something horrible they went through and throw it in the trash and act like it doesn't exist, and then they wonder why they're lashing out. They're doing this, and it's just so glad. I'm just so happy to see someone like you who's like acknowledging both of those sides, and you're progressively working every day to make people's lives better. You know what I mean? It's very inspiring.
Thank you. And, you know, I'll be open and honest with everybody that's out there listening and with you, gentlemen. You know, it got to the point, and you'll read my book, where, you know, I was sitting in my car tickling my tonsils with a .357 Magnum, you know, and that was the end of the road for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had a 3-year-old, I had my wife, and that was it. Because I didn't think I could get ahead of it, you know, and, you know, I was drinking daily and taking anxiety medicine, and I was a train wreck. Yeah. And I'm not going to kill the story, but I'm here, right? So something happened, and that was a gift of grace or a second chance, however you want to look at it. And because of that, I have to every day. I believe that because I was given a second chance, that I need to then be of service for the rest of my life to people who need help. And so because I was given that chance, it was kind of like an agreement with the universe that, like, okay, here, go do something wonderful to help the world. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm not perfect by any means, and I'm not sitting here like, oh, you know, Brett Miller's the best thing since sliced bread. But like every day I get up, I first of all take care of myself because I know I got to do the work. I got to practice what I preach if I want to be of service to people because I'm broken, right? And then I dig in and I teach people the way, and then I show them then how to be of service to others, right? So it's kind of a sharing of service and, you know, gifts to people. And everybody has a gift. They just need to find it. Like my gift is helping people heal and come through disease. And other people have other gifts. And it's an obligation to you as a human, if you have been given a gift and you know what that gift is, that you share it with the world.
Yeah.
It's an obligation. You've got to do it. And that's what was good. This is my obligation. And that's why not only am I doing what I'm doing, but I'm also here today because there's people listening. I want more people to know, like,
Right.
this is what you got to do, you know?
And perfect is unrelatable.
Correct.
Very unrelatable.
Yeah. So.
I mean, it's your purpose. You've figured out your purpose. And I think a lot of people, we're in a weird time in society where people are very, I guess selfish is the word. A lot of people are like, why is this happening to me? I deserve this. You don't deserve anything. And a lot of people won't help others because they feel like they might be the ones that need help. But no matter at what stage you are in life, if you are at a point where you're like, I literally do not know what to do with my life, I can't figure it out, whatever, nobody loves me, any of that stuff. If you went out and did something to help someone else, that 100% is the first step in the staircase to bring you back up.
Bingo. And you almost quoted my book. I talk about it in my book because people come to me and they go, what do I don't know what to do. I'm kind of lost in my life. I haven't found my purpose. I don't have a mission. And I say, go volunteer.
No, yeah.
Go volunteer. And I will tell you that you will find your purpose and you will find your mission. Right.
Yeah.
And you know, just to give kudos, we have probably 40 volunteers that come through 110 Fitness every week who are trained by me. They have to go through a specific training to watch for our Parkinson's folks while they're doing their programs. And so I'm teaching a class and they're there to facilitate and help. And I couldn't do my programming without them. They're amazing. They come in the pool with us. We have a pool program and they come to our community events. And I mean, there's a lot going on. If you want to talk about it, I can at 110 Fitness. But the volunteers are the nuts and bolts of that program. And they all always come to me and they go, this is the best volunteering job that I ever had in my life. And I have gotten so much back and understand so much more about myself than I could ever give to somebody, you know? So
the volunteers, are they, do they have Parkinson's too, or is it?
So this is a great question. Absolutely. So there are people who are less progressed, who are more athletic, who volunteer for our folks who are really progressed.
Yeah.
So that's also beautiful, right?
That's fantastic because you're seeing, you can relate
to
that.
Yeah, it's beautiful to watch.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And then we have a whole bunch of people that just come through our doors like, oh, I heard about your program. I want to get involved.
Yeah.
Could be a lawyer, could be a banker, could be anybody.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
What type of meditation do you do?
Breathing. So I do a lot of forced exhalation, and I change the dynamics of that.
Yeah.
But meditation is very hard for me, even after many, many years. And when I had anxiety really bad, people would be like, "Oh, you just got to breathe." You go to the doctor, they're like, "Yo, here's these breathing exercises," and you're like, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna die as soon as I take a deep breath. Like I'm gonna suffocate, right?"
Yeah.
So I started slow, and I also am aware of acknowledging that it's okay for thoughts to come and go in your mind while you're meditating. And as soon as I understood that, I was able to get into it more.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, I do like and again, short, sweet, and complete, 7 minutes. I do an inhalation for 3 and an exhalation for 6. Sometimes I'll do a 4-8. But other than that, I keep it really simple.
Yeah.
And I actually use a sound. To the sound of the inhalation and the sound of the exhalation on my phone.
Yeah.
And that's all I do. 7 minutes every day, and it's just enough to get my head on straight so that I can, be on the money.
Yeah. I meditate too, and that's why I was asking. I do transcendental meditation, but
Yes.
I got my wife into it, and it's funny when you're first explaining to somebody about meditating. It's always, they're like, I can't shut my brain off and think about nothing, and it's like, yeah, that's literally impossible. But there's different versions. Doing it with your breath. Just if you just sit down and kind of do your best to shut yourself off.
Right.
It is the best way I could describe it is plugging your phone into a charger.
Right.
It really is.
Right.
It's fantastic. So now my wife does, and she does it different. She'll do, I do it 20 minutes every morning, but she'll go, depending on the day, she might do a 5-minute meditation. She might do a 10-minute meditation. She might do a 20-minute, she has a little app that she follows along
Sure.
with, but I always recommend that to people. And again, there's so many different types.
Right.
Like the type you do, my wife listens, follows along to the person telling him. I do the mantra thing, but
And a lot of our folks that come in with Parkinson's, obviously they've just been given a diagnosis of a neurological disease that has no cure, and they get anxious, right?
Yeah.
Naturally. And I will also just tell them, you know what? Can you just sit for 5 minutes? Just sit
yeah.
and let your mind kind of come and go and wander, and just try that practice. And because I've been there and I knew how hard it was for myself, just sit. And then start to maybe incorporate some other stuff like you've been talking about. And the data's there. We have the research that talks about all the changes in the matter of the brain, right?
Game changer.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
a game changer.
It's fascinating when you look at what meditation can do for you. And I felt I was amazing in COVID, right? Because I had more time to myself, even though I was working every day. But then now I've fallen out a little bit, and now I decided I keep a full-on chart on my desk every morning. I write down, just so that I have a visual connection with it. I meditated multiple days in a row. So, yeah, it's a practice, just like anything.
Yeah. Do you journal or anything?
Oh,
like
yeah.
that?
Oh, yeah. I journal. Yeah. Boy, no one wants to find that.
Me too.
But yeah, I journal. And I also do some like mental journaling too.
Yeah.
Yeah. During the day. And again, during COVID was great. I wrote, that book during COVID. I'd always wanted to write a book, and I had all the things I wanted to write about, but I never had the time to actually do it. And COVID gave me time to do a lot of things, and one of them was start writing. So that was kind of the catalyst.
What was that process like finding a publisher and all that?
So it's writing a book. If you talk to any author, they'll tell you the easiest thing about writing a book is writing the book, because it's all the stuff after that. Yeah. So some people choose to find publishers. Some people self-publish. That all is a process, because you have to find people that want to pick you up, or how the contracts work and things like that. So it took me start to finish about 13 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 4 different editors, going through the book, talking to other publishing professionals who say, oh, listen, if you want this, you're trying to create this is what you should manipulate a little bit with this, and maybe change that chapter to this, before this chapter, things like that. There's a lot of criticism and critiquing, and all constructive, but it took me a little over a year from start to finish.
How long did it take to write the book itself?
To write the book took me 3 months.
3 months.
It was quick. I wrote a chapter every single night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when I was so we were open during COVID because we were considered. I'm a physical therapist by trade, so I was considered, one of those people that could go to work, right? Critical, or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
But so I was open every day doing one-on-one trainings, and then also I was in the process of I made a YouTube channel so that people could do exercise programming for Parkinson's while they were at home.
Yeah.
Which then turned into, we now have the only app that's available in the world, which was just rated #1 in all of Europe. And it gave me time to do that. I was making videos and seeing people, but then at night I would go home and I'd be like, shh, just writing and writing and writing. And okay, that chapter's done. And it was rough, but then, I put it all together at the end, but it was quick, 3 months, 15 chapters,
Wow. So did you do it like a movie where you knew what the end was before you started writing, or was it more like a journal that you kind of compiled at the end?
No, I knew I had all the chapters laid out, and it's very chronological to my age, and also so it kind of flowed. Yeah. The last chapter is pretty cool. It does a full circle from the beginning. But again, I won't ruin anything for anybody.
Nice. By the way, the name of the book is It's a Beautiful Day to Save Lives. Yeah. You should get it. It's so funny you were saying how during COVID, because of your job, that you were considered critical,
essential
or
whatever.
Yeah, essential. Yeah. Do you know what's sad? I was considered essential too during COVID. So they gave us a form from the state. This is when at the height of where everybody was like, if you go outside and inhale, you're gonna get sick. They gave us a form from the state, and they said if you keep this on the dashboard of your car. If anybody stops you while you're driving, show them that you're essential. You're going to work or from work. I'm like, are you serious right now?
People need their morning show,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
They
That's
needed
right.
it.
I know what's going
Yeah.
on in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Whatever.
You were like, hey.
I'm like, all right, if you want to, doctors,
Radio host.
yeah,
you know?
yeah, people delivering food,
Exactly.
and this idiot,
yeah, exactly. No.
essential. That's funny.
I think everybody's got PTSD from COVID.
Yeah, I'm like, so that means would I make it on the spaceship in case like the world's gonna explode? Could I get a seat
like
on that
Titanic,
spaceship?
they're
I'm like, they need me on Mars.
no, literally.
Yeah, for sure. And all that stuff, the apps and live radio. I mean, it's so important. We have some very well-known DJs and radio hosts who have Parkinson's who come to our facility. It's the new pandemic. You ask anybody about Parkinson's and they'll tell you, oh, my dad, oh, my brother, oh, I just found out my neighbors, you know. And the numbers that we had predicted originally for 2040 are already double what they were.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so we're obviously a little bit nervous about that and being as proactive as possible, not only from our side, but also the research side. And that's where the app came into play. I'll just touch back on COVID. So we had people in 14 countries following us on YouTube because, again, we're very spoiled, if you will, to live where we live because we have access to all this beautiful care and all these universities. And so Parkinson's is like at the forefront. Whereas, you're in East Oshkosh, Kansas, it might be 3 hours just to get to your doctor. Or you might be in Alberta, Canada, and you don't have access to any exercise programming. So I developed this app where now I don't know, I've made like 320 videos in 18 categories. And so people, again, all over the world have access to this programming. And so,
What's the app called?
it's 110 Fitness.
Oh, 110
Yeah, it's a
Fitness,
110 Fitness app on Android or at your Apple Store. And we have a bunch of professionals who also help me make the videos, 18 categories. And like I said, we're up in the 300s in regards to the amount of videos. And it's for people who either can't come to class or maybe live somewhere else or don't have access to the programming. And again, it was the first wellness app that was ever developed for people with Parkinson's, and we're still the only one. But we're highly regarded, which is awesome. We just found out that we were the #1 Parkinson's app in Europe, which was really satisfying because a lot of work went into that during COVID.
Yeah.
And so we just keep dropping videos, every month we drop like 2 or 3 videos. So it's fun.
That's crazy how much you're helping people.
Well,
I mean,
it's what we do. It's...
And you don't strike me as a guy that's going to retire ever.
Well, I know. I always talk about it. I wanted to retire when I was 50. I had that other business I was telling you about. I used to design custom wheelchairs and make braces and custom shoes. I was in that line of business as a therapist. And then I was in the fighting world and doing all that kind of stuff. But my purpose was to sell that business and to retire. And then I got chest deep in this. And then ironically, my business partner from that business developed Parkinson's 2 years after I left.
Really?
Yeah, so David boxes at our facility as well.
It's like you're getting signs
Yeah.
from the universe
That's
saying
what I mean.
you need to do. And by the way, what is retiring? I think a lot of
Right?
people are always like, you know what? I'm just going to make a ton of money. And 50 seems the age where
Yeah.
people always
Right.
say, I'm going to retire. And then I'm always like, okay, then what are you going to do? Sit on the beach all day? Because you're going to get bored. That's
Right.
going to be your new baseline of boredom.
Right.
You always should.
You need mission and purpose, right? You have to have
100%.
it. Because I've thought about it real, Ramiro. I've been like, all right, I'm going to retire. Then I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, what am I going to do?
I can only go to the gym so many hours a day. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I 100% I agree with you. Yeah, I'll probably be still working, And I try to take really good care of my body so that like when I'm 70, I'm just like this. I want to be available for my kids. I want to be
100%.
available for my family. I want to be available for people. I want to be on the mountain skiing. I want to be ice climbing still and, doing all these things.
And it's good the work you're kind of like what you were saying earlier, how you were like not many people are exposed to like people in the military and their experiences, and they don't even have a concept of like what that even is.
Right.
Because like I can say in school, like like recruiting officers would come, kind of like when you're like a junior, senior, and they have like they have like the pamphlets, and they
Yes.
tell you like a little bit. They give you like the marketing version of it, just to be like, oh, if you're interested, come learn more. But mine first open eye to it, because once again, I'm a total geek, was like a Marvel show.
Sure.
And I had no idea what that even entailed. And I wrote like 6 papers in college about the Punisher.
Oh, get
And,
out of here,
like,
Punisher. Okay, I was gonna ask you a show.
Yeah, like 6 of them. I'm not even joking. Like, because I think we're painted an image through media and through your experiences. You know, unless you have someone that's close to you that's in the military, you might not really know. But like one thing that struck me was like, you know, people walk in and they come out totally different people. And they never talk about it, or they don't, like kind of what you said, they don't know how to assimilate back into civilian life. So conversations like what we're having now and the work you're doing, you know what I mean? You can also you can do so much. You're helping people with Parkinson's, but what if that person was a former military or their dad was? And then you share your experience, and it's like you're casting your net,
Right.
and you're just like bringing in so much.
Well,
So I don't want you to retire. I want
Right.
you to keep
Well, no,
casting
thank
that
you.
net.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how we have this joke now that we talk about at work, because when someone comes in and they're like, "Oh, did you hear about so and so?" and we're like, "We're surprised, but we're not surprised." You know what I mean? Because it just constantly keeps coming back.
Yeah.
You know, I started this this program. It's called Box H2O, where I teach high intensity boxing in the water. So we have a pool next door owned by someone else, and I called him up and I said, "Hey, Bill, I'm the guy next door. I own this wellness center." This is 5 or 6 years ago. I'd like to use your pool for my Parkinson's folks. I have this program that I'm copywriting and trademarking and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm literally like the building next to you in Rockland." He's like, "Oh, yeah. I go, "I'm designing this program in the water for people with Parkinson's." He goes, "You're not going to believe this." And I go, "What?" He goes, "I'm in Michigan with my dad at a boxing program. He has Parkinson's disease."
Wow.
And from that day on, Bill has been incredible, not only in welcoming all the people that come to the pool twice a week to work out in the pool, but also the amount of money that we pay to use the pool is next to nothing. You know, we pay for the lifeguard, and he's donated like his time and videos and things like that. So it's stuff like that that just keeps happening to us, where we're like, all right, we're on the right track here, you know?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
so.
it.
So the Punishers, what got you into the?
I didn't know. I'm being honest here. Like,
Honestly, for me, I was again barely paid attention to school, and then in life, I think I was like most people, where you're like, when you think about military, you go, oh, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, the Cold War, and then, you know, Afghanistan, Iraq, not knowing all the little things that happen all the time.
Right.
My first, when I really started getting into it, my obsession basically started with, there was a show on, it was a broadcast. It was like probably like the early 2000s. It was called The Unit. And it was like like a Delta Force show. And I was like, this is awesome. So then, I was talking to you earlier how I trained with Kenny Florian.
Yes.
He was reading a book one day randomly. We were training, and he was reading a book Inside Delta Force, which I started reading. And I'm like, this is amazing. And that's kind of like what started me getting into all military stuff.
I mean, like I was, I'm saying it more in the sense of like, you know, that like the actuality of it, like the reality of it, because we got the Hollywood glamour version,
Of course.
that I'm sure many people in your shoes can't stand, and then they're like that to me. I mean, of course, people are gonna be like, that's not true, but it was the first time I saw like a different perspective. What's your opinion on things like that? Do you kind of steer away from those types of media, or do you watch them and are you able to like disassociate and just get entertained?
So I hope my wife's listening.
Do you
So
have
I'm
a shirt
not
with
allowed
the skull and bones on it
I'm
at
not
home
allowed
just in
to
case?
watch like full-on hardcore war stories.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So my wife's like, you know what, Brett? Like, you probably shouldn't be like watching Lone Survivor and some of these movies.
yeah.
She's like, you know, because at one point when I was in a very dark place, I used to do like recon missions around my house at night with loaded weapons.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would run recon. I'd come in from the house and she'd go, "Why are you covered in dirt? And dirt all over me, all on my knees." And I was like, "Doing a recon in the house, you know?" Like, so I was doing stuff like that. I was having night terrors and things like that. So she tries to steer me away from that.
Yeah.
So-
Well, exactly. There's a scene just like there's a whole episode of someone who had that experience, and I would have been blind to something like that. I would have been unaware that people have that experience. You get what I'm trying to say here? Like,
yeah, no,
it's
I get it, and it's Hollywood makes it look pretty, you know.
They do, yeah.
And it's supposed to, because that's what sells, and that's okay. It's just I have to make a conscious effort to be like, okay, this is okay or this is not okay. And I would say that I've gotten so much better with that. But typically, like, you know, the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, walked out in like 4 seconds.
Really?
Couldn't even.
I can
and that was
imagine,
years
yeah.
ago, right? Like I couldn't even, because it was so, you know, there it goes the hair again. It was so real.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Sometimes the real, it's
I couldn't do it. So I've gotten better, and I do watch it, you know, some of the stuff, but I'm not a big, so I don't watch TV really at all. And if I see a movie, I'm lucky to stay awake watching it. But just because I'm a busy guy, but I don't have a lot of time to watch TV, so I don't really engage.
There's not like a binge show you got
Nothing.
every now and then. You're like,
Nothing.
you know what? I respect that.
People out here,
I wish I was like
they
that.
laugh. They're like, you don't watch TV? I'm like, no, and I'm horrible. They're like, oh, that, you know, the actor, and I'm like, no, I don't. I don't know that actor.
Michael J. Fox walks in. He's like, I know you.
Oh,
from
I know
somewhere.
Michael. No, I know Michael.
That's pretty much it.
Michael's one of the
So-
nicest, sweetest men you'll ever meet in your life.
What's the last show that you were super into, like a TV show or favorite movie that you could watch over and over again? Because Saving Private Ryan, I got to be honest, is on my list. I freaking love that
Yeah,
movie.
so love The Gladiator, the original.
Oh, The Gladiator. Good one.
Great
Good one.
movie, yeah. Also, there was a movie called Lion. I don't know if you remember. It was about a young man who was displaced from his family, like in India, and then was adopted by an American family. It won all these awards, and then he like charted. He didn't know where he was from. And he charted all this stuff. It's a real story, and he ends up meeting his real parents at the end of the movie. But it's called Lion. That was like I could watch that over and over again. Just a fascinating movie. So, you know, I like the bang 'em up, shoot 'em up movies. You know what I mean? Like that, things like that. But again, I don't really, you know, I shattered my leg a couple years ago in a skiing accident, and I didn't binge, but I ended up watching a lot of like The Office.
Yeah.
So I've seen a majority of that, but other than that, like I don't have anything.
How about music?
Maybe the Dukes of Hazzard when I was like 12.
Oh, yeah,
every
man.
Friday night.
Yep.
You know, or chips or something.
How about like artists? Like, give me like who are like your top 5 if you're working out or if you're.
Oh boy. Oh, I have a massive music selection. Massive. So it depends what I'm doing. You know, I was brought up on country.
Yeah.
So I'm a big country guy, but then I'm also into like, you know, I love like old school rap, you know, Biggie and Eminem and, you know.
He grew up listening to the freaking Puerto Rican.
I did, yeah. 94.5 WZOU. Yeah. I grew up listening to that. And so I don't mind that. And then I'm also into, you know, some of the, you know, Imagine Dragons, The Killers, you know, it really depends on what I'm doing.
Love me some Imagine Dragons.
Yeah. So I'm all over the place. You might find me listening to, you know, Andrea Bocelli, who I met a couple years ago, and he is a boxer.
Really?
Yeah,
What?
Yeah. So he fights. Yeah. So this is really bizarre, right? So I meet him. He's with his wife. We're in Boston at the Garden, and I'm in the dressing room with him, and they're translating because he speaks fluent Italian. Obviously, that this guy that's here is works in professional fighting and owns this thing about Parkinson's, blah blah. And so he was telling me stories that he can see like really dark shadows, but he uses boxing training for his balance, because when you lose your vision, right, your balance is all goofy because you don't know what you're stepping on or what the dynamic surface looks like. And then he was telling me the story about, and I forget who it was that he was. But he was joking because the guy that he was boxing with didn't know that he could see a little bit. And he like cheap shotted him in the gut or something and knocked him down. And he was telling me he thought it was fairly funny. But anyways, I might listen to him, or I might throw on some orchestral music or something.
I love it.
So, yeah, I'm all over the map with the music.
What about when you're working out? What's your go-to?
Working out's like hardcore, like
you gotta go
Beasties and
Yeah.
stuff with Profanity, Limp Bizkit, and
There we go.
Hell yeah.
yeah. So
I was hitting the bag this morning. I was listening to EDM music.
Oh, you do? Oh, I can't with the EDM. I
What?
feel like I'm gonna pass out.
Oh, I love
Really?
it, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I love the
Give me some good house or some
Oh,
EDM.
man.
Yeah.
I just started running this week.
Yeah.
I walk a lot, but I was like, I'm gonna start running. I don't know why. I woke up Monday morning. I was like, let's go. Day 3, I was like, this isn't getting easier, guys. I was like, whoever came up with this, and then I sat, and then right before I started the run, I was stretching, and I was walking. I was like, you know what? I was like, where's the Rocky song? I was like, where's the Rocky
dude,
yeah.
song? I felt like I could fly.
Dude.
I was like,
the soundtrack to Rocky 4 in
4.
particular
4.
will get you going.
Yeah.
Go. You've seen the movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Hearts
4.
on Fire when he's running
Yeah.
up the freaking mountain.
yeah.
Put that on when you're running.
I have
day.
all of it on
Yeah.
my playlist.
I'll start soaring.
All of 4 is like incredible.
I was
my
just
God.
doing the like the first one where he's running through like
Yeah,
Philly.
yeah, yeah.
That's
No, those are you got to create the Rocky playlist. So you put on the dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
You put that. You put Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
But then Rocky 4 soundtrack.
Okay.
Soundtrack.
All right.
Soundtrack.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys know.
you. That's when he's in Russia training.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
I'll let
dude.
you guys know.
He's got the logs on his shoulder.
Yeah, look.
Oh my God.
And I'm running through Newton, like pretending I'm like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'll do it when I would run, like training for marathons. It was either the Rocky 4 soundtrack or sometimes like when I would go for long runs. But sometimes randomly, I would put on just straight a playlist of R&B slow jam.
Why not? Right?
It was the days that I'm like, okay, I just want to pace myself and go on a nice easy run, and I'm listening to like the most cheesy like
Oh yeah.
Boys to Men, I'll Make Love to You, like those
Yeah.
type of songs. Like if somebody could hear what I'm listening to.
No, I have a whole playlist from here. That's all it is. Is that soft R&B stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a place for it.
There
That's why
really
I say
is.
I'm all over the place with it all. But yeah, there it is. R&B, man. Neo, Usher, Tony Braxton,
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Zane, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Bobby Brown,
Yeah.
H-Town, knocking the boots.
Knocking the
man.
boots. I'm telling
Yes.
you. I'm telling you, man. Oh, okay. So,
good.
it's a beautiful day to save lives. Get that book. You said you were working on other books, or you have a.
Yeah, so I've co-authored and contributed to some other books. One is a Parkinson's book that's the Davis Phinney Foundation puts out. It's called Every Victory Counts, and it's like a PD Bible. It basically talks about anything and everything Parkinson's, but I wrote like the exercise component of it.
Yep.
I also wrote the foreword to Greatest Burden, Greatest Blessings, which is a book that is a collection of stories written by caregivers who have cared for loved ones with disease.
Yeah.
So Mark Resnick was the author, kid I grew up with, and then he asked me to write the foreword, and then I wrote a chapter as well. And then also I asked Rashida Ali, who's a friend of mine, it's one of Muhammad's daughters. She also then wrote a second foreword for that book.
Yeah.
So I contributed a chapter and the foreword to that. And then I'm working on a new book that I have all the chapters laid out. It's slow for me right now, but it's all about my interactions at 110 Fitness and my life around Parkinson's disease.
Yeah. You're doing good things, my friend.
Yeah,
You're doing
busy.
A lot of good things.
Busy and just always trying to move forward. And you know, I just want to go back like to people with Parkinson's, like you met Dan, right? So Dan's running the Tokyo Marathon
Yeah.
in March. He's running Boston when he comes back. I have ran and am running Chicago next year. I run with people with Parkinson's, so I coach them and I run marathons with them.
Yeah. Have you run Chicago before?
I have not run Chicago. That's why I'm running. Yeah, I haven't
fun.
done it. Yeah, it's fun.
done
I have
that
a
one.
best friend that I grew up with who lives out there, so we're kind of going to make a thing out of it, which is great. And the woman that I'm running with, she is a former Iron athlete.
Oh, shit.
She's done 8 Ironmans,
Yeah.
2 with Parkinson's. She's unable to do all the events together, so we've been doing the events like separate. So we ride 100, and then we ran Boston 3 years ago together, and we're going to run Chicago this year. So Dan asked me to run Boston with him again this year, but I'm like a little bit short on my mileage, so
Yeah.
I got to back out of it. But people with Parkinson's are incredibly resilient, and people don't understand that they are some of the, I always joke at work when I talk to like my operations director and other people, I'm like, the coolest people get Parkinson's. I mean, the stories that these people have and the integrity and stuff that they have. And, you know, I always use this quote that I came up with, and I say, because people always go, well, in your final words, right? Like Jordan Rich was interviewing me. It's like, Brett, tell me, like in your final words, like what would you tell the world about people with Parkinson's? And I say, They are people who want you to know that they have the ownership of a pulse that is fierce and it is relentless, and they are never giving up. And that's what I say. You know, they're the owners and proud owners of this pulse that is like, no matter what, I'm getting up, I'm doing the work, I'm resilient, I'm fearless, I'm fierce, and I'm not giving up because I know that the future's on my back for the next generation, and I'm going to do everything I can to care for myself and then leave it to the next generation. And, you know, for anybody out there who has Parkinson's, hats off to you because you're just kicking ass and fighting back. I know you are. But also for anybody that knows somebody with it, like, these people are doing the work, and they are some of the most incredible people that I've met that have come through my facility. So
Yeah. Parkinson's is starting to be one of those conditions where everybody, you know, everyone's like, oh, everyone knows somebody with cancer somehow is connected. It's starting to become like that with Parkinson's too.
yeah, yeah, and it's scary.
Yeah.
You know, it's scary. And again, we have awareness through famous people who have achieved it. There are people running marathons, doing, you know, Ninja Warrior and all that stuff that, you know, really brings light to it. And, you know, we do the Fenway Spartan every year. For the last 4 years, we've taken groups of 20 with Parkinson's through Fenway. I mean, we don't, I always say we because it's like an organic family, but it's me. I, you know, I don't set any standard for them. So the expectation level is here, right? Yeah. And for these people, you know, if they want to run an obstacle course, then that's what we're doing. They want to do Green Beret with a mission challenge, let's go. You know, so it's pretty awesome.
I wonder if eventually, because with AI and stuff like that, they'll be able to, and with what you're saying, they'll be able to almost develop not a cure, but maybe some sort of surgery that could kind of make what they're doing with all the exercise and stuff, turn that up a little more,
right.
and turn down the Parkinson's stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's called neuroplasticity is what we call it. But that's exactly. There's chemicals, BDNF, GDNF, like without getting into detail in the spinal column that are released during high intensity exercise that help with like executive functioning, short-term memory, all that stuff.
Brain-derived neurotropic, something like that factor.
Yes, factor. Yeah. You go, man.
Dude, I pay attention to the most random.
I love this.
You, I always joke because I think people think I'm just into nonsense all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, if you go on my social media, it's either like my algorithm is, you know, people falling off a ladder, stupid things like that. I said, but it's 0 or 10. The next thing is just literally scientific things, you know, motivational kind of situation, all workout stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why I know about the BDNF. I'm big into. I just started. Have you heard of Function Health?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just literally did those blood tests for that last month.
Good.
And I got my results, and I'm going through the data like crazy. I was big into. You know, you start hearing about testosterone for guys, especially like our age.
Absolutely.
And I have a friend he's in his early 30s, and he's already like on TRT. And we were talking about it, and I said, what made you go on it? And he was telling me about how like his symptoms were like. He's like, yeah, I was still working out, I was doing this, but I was gaining weight, I was tired, all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, I should get tested. But even if it comes back low, I don't feel anything, so I don't know if I would do it.
Right.
Even if it came back low. And he goes, dude, you're like 1,000. I bet you're like 1,000. And I'm like, I mean, I do all the low hanging fruit stuff, the working out, eating right, trying to optimize my sleep, even though my sleep sucks, like just by
your job.
Because I have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
But so I got it tested and I checked it out. And I looked at my wife one day and I was like, bam, 1,067, baby.
Yes. Yeah,
what's up? But Function Health, it breaks down all. You get over. I think I could tell you right now how many results. Whereas your average blood test, Moose doesn't care about this. He's 24.
Right.
You will one day.
You will. That's
you
right.
will. Whereas your average blood test, you get maybe like, I don't know, 15 things back for your results. This thing.
What is it called? A panel?
Your panel,
this is like a completely different panel, right? It tests like any metals and
104 biomarkers back.
Yeah.
104.
Yeah.
100. You don't care.
Well, we were just talking about biomarkers for Parkinson's, right?
Yeah,
We got one.
yeah.
We're trying to find some others that kind of slate you to be someone with Parkinson's. But yeah, the biomarkers it's the way it's going. And just to pedal back a little bit on AI, like AI is helping us with that.
Hell yeah.
I just did an interview with a woman at MIT who was looking at the benefits of AI in Parkinson's disease and how they're looking at how AI is going to affect PD. She wanted my feedback, blah, blah, blah. But really interesting because as dangerous and as, all the use of like the amount of drainage, water, all that stuff that AI uses, like there are some really incredible, amazing things that are going to come out of AI, especially in healthcare.
Yeah.
And obviously we hope with Parkinson's disease. So I'm looking forward to that, and it's nice to know that people at MIT, obviously, way above me, who are digging into that,
Yeah.
So
That's what I think where AI is going to benefit the most is
100%.
healthcare and, things of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then there's all these people who use it for nonsense too, but whatever.
Yeah.
As long as we save lives.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah. So music, music's your thing, right? This is what you do, right? And so there's a lot of research that talks about the art of music and Parkinson's disease. So one thing that happens with Parkinson's is your speech can be affected, your ability to swallow, things like that, but also your volume of your voice. So we have a choir. So I direct a choir. We do concerts in the public. And we use music and our voices to continue to strengthen our vocal cords. And then we have a drum team. So we use drumsticks. And we
work them out. You sing with them.
Oh yeah, and we do drums. So I choreograph.
You swim.
So I choreograph drumming techniques with movement patterns to music.
Yeah.
And so we just did a memorial for somebody. We just did a symposium in Canton, and we did an a cappella song, and then we did a drumming to Footloose.
Yeah.
So that there's all kinds of foot movement. The drumsticks have to tap off the feet. Like there's back step. There's all this coordination stuff. But people always say, "Oh, are you just like a boxing club?" And it's like, no. So we have Tai Chi, we have Zumba, we have ballroom dancing, we have a choir, we have drum teams, we have yoga, we have art workshops, we go rock climbing, we go axe throwing, we go to the orchestra every year, we go deep sea fishing, we have boxing, like strength and conditioning, like it's a full-on wellness center. We have massage, like you name it, educational series. So it's a 360 platform, right? Global support. The biggest thing that people forget about is the caregivers, right? The people who are bringing these folks daily if they need brought. And so we offer programming for them, support groups. We offer transportation if people can't drive themselves. So, it's really, again, just talking about that whole holistic approach where we're looking at like the big picture for these folks. And all our programming is research evidence-based. So if there isn't any research data, we're not doing it. Because that's where I come from, right? I'm a researcher. I'm a physical therapist. I believe in numbers and data and big, large data numbers. And so unless it's research evidenced, we don't host it. And our goal, and hopefully it's working, it's slowly working, is to try to get other people who are offering boxing for Parkinson's to kind of up the ante. We expect combination work. All of the fighters know slip drills, boxing technique, footwork, whereas that's not going on in a lot of other places. And so we're trying to set the standard for the world, to be the example for the world that, like, if you're going to carry this out, carry it out based off the research and do it the way that it's supposed to be done.
Right.
I'm a little soapboxy about that, but I also have 200 people that come to my facility who are getting better with Parkinson's.
You're seeing the results all the time.
Yeah, so let's go.
On a daily basis.
Right? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so.
What's the website? 110fitness.
110fitness.org.
110fitness.org.
Yeah, the .org catches up people like, oh, I gotta,
110fitness.org. And it's a beautiful day to save lives. And is there anything that I did not ask you that I should have?
Nothing I can think of. I think we pretty much hit all of it.
He's like my favorite ice cream flavor. Which is?
Oh, ice cream is one of my downfalls. Chunky Monkey.
Chunky Monkey.
Yeah.
Ben and Jerry's love it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Any
$7, you can get a pint.
Right. No, man, thank you so much for coming. Honestly, this is a great experience.
Yeah, it's always an honor to be invited. So thank both of you. And also, it's also so nice to be able to share, because there's a lot of people that don't know that these programs are out there. And we truly believe that There's probably 200 people on the South Shore right now that don't know anything about 110 Fitness that are home watching TV, isolating themselves with Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
And so when we are invited to shows like this, where we get it to be, to the public and speak, it's so nice because we know that someone out there is going to be touched and hear this, and then they're going to share it with somebody else. And it's like it's like a Facebook thing, right? Where it just blows out. So, and we're there and we're doing it. And there's a lot of hope in our community, and we have incredible people surrounding us. And so we're very blessed. So
Awesome, man.
yeah,
Well,
thank you.
Thank you for coming in, Brett.
Happy to be here.
It was awesome.